Swadika, good morning and welcome to Newsline. It's Monday's edition, March 31st of 2014. I'm Cholapansan Rula. In today's main stories, Kun Ying Jaruwan Mentaka won the Senate election in Bangkok. And we have a special interview section with the President of the World Bank. And that's about the global HIV situation. And now let's take a look at our headlines. The Election Commission, or EC, will meet today to discuss the Charter Court's interpretation on the axed February 2nd election and to prepare for a new round of national poll, saying it might use yesterday's Senate election as a blueprint for the new general election. According to the Election Commissioner, Somchai Sisuthiyakon, the senatorial election went smoothly in 77 provinces nationwide, adding that only 6 complaints have been made, 2 of which were from Bangkok. If no protest is lodged against any winner from any province, the EC would be able to confirm the polling result within a week's time. However, should a complaint be filed against any candidate, it would take the EC about 30 days to investigate and void the result of the individual if he is found to have breached the rule as claimed, as well as calling for a make-up poll. Should the case take longer than 30 days, the EC would confirm the result and investigate the case within a year's time. Kun Somchai took the opportunity to express his gratitude to all related agencies for making yesterday's Senate election a success, adding that all sides must put aside their differences in order to ensure similar success in the new round of general election. Mr. Somchai said both sides of the political conflicts should attempt to engage in dialogues, as nobody else was willing to take the role of mediator, referring clearly to the now defunct 6 private organization network. The EC would no longer attempt to mend the rifts between the 2 sides, but would only focus on doing its duty of organizing the election. And the Election Commission has announced unofficial results of the senatorial election held on Sunday, with Kun Ying Jaruwan Benjawan Mentaka winning the Bangkok Senate poll. According to the EC, 18 million voters casted their ballots yesterday, accounting for 42.5% of all 44 million eligible voters in Thailand. There were more than 15 million, or 83% of valid ballots, and 5.15% of invalid ballot papers. Up to almost 12% of the voters opted to vote no, as they did not want to elect any candidates on the list. Former Auditor General Kun Ying Jaruwan Mentaka, as predicted, won the Senate election in the city of Bangkok with more than 500,000 votes. Kun Ying Jaruwan led the vote count from the start after the poll closed until the end. In other provinces, Kun Waraporn Swahem bagged the majority of the votes in Samut Prakan province. Apon Sarakam, wife of the red shirt leader in Udon Thani, took the province's seat, and Kun Adisan Kamnut Siri won the election in Chiang Mai province. Prime Minister and Defence Minister Yingluck Shinawatra is calling for justice over the charges against her stemming from the government's multi-million baht rice subsidy program. She is scheduled to clarify her charges today. Prime Minister Yingluck said she wasn't granted enough time to prepare documents for her testimony before the National Anti-Corruption Commission, which is indicting her for the failure of the rice support program that has run out of funds. She added that the NACC was not treating her with the equality afforded to other politicians in the past. The Prime Minister was recently given 15 more days to clarify her response to charges and now has until Monday to do so. The NACC on Thursday decided not to extend the deadline for her testimony. She went on to reveal that the NACC did not set up a subcommittee to probe the case, but instead decided to bring charges against her quickly, as it took only 21 days to charge her. In February, the NACC decided to press charges against the Prime Minister for dereliction of duty. The charges are linked to the financial loss of the government's rice support program, as well as her alleged failure to stop corruption as a chairperson overseeing the program. The General Secretary of the People's Democracy Reform Committee has announced his plan to hold 2 more major rallies in an attempt to oust the caretaker government. Suthep Turksuban declared during his daily on-stage speech that he would bring the political confrontation to an end in April. He also challenged the red shirts to stage a major rally on the same day to see which side could attract a larger number of supporters. According to Kun Suthep, it will be a peaceful battle between the anti-government movement and the red shirts, long-time staunch supporters of the government. He also called for civil servants, police, military personnel to join the anti-government rally in order to clean the country's key systems, which have been tainted by corruption for decades. The PDRC has called for a reform of the nation's political, education, administration and judicial systems before the next general election is to be held. The Thai court will today read its verdict on the murder of Saudi Arabian businessman who was killed more than 20 years ago. The case is part of the Blue Diamond controversial theft dating back to the 1980s. The ties between Thailand and Saudi Arabia have been since severely strained due to the stealing of the invaluable Blue Diamond and hundreds of other pieces of jewels by the Thai worker. 3 Saudi diplomats were also killed and a businessman was abducted during the search for the jewel. The businessman Mohammed Al-Ruwaili, who has a close connection to the Faisal royal family, went missing. Later, several Thai police were accused of involvement in his abduction and murder. The government of Saudi Arabia has since lowered diplomatic ties with Thailand and imposed travel bans and work quota restrictions in retaliation. Kun Surapong Towichakchaikun, the caretaker Minister of Foreign Affairs, said the ruling was an important step to the reviving of the Thai-Saudi relationship. Earlier, Abdullah Al-Sibi, chargé d'affaires of Saudi Arabia to Thailand, met with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs officials to express concerns over the changing of the case's presiding judge only 1 week before the reading of the verdict. The Saudi government will send senior officials to listen to the verdict. Representatives of the Al-Ruwali's family will also attend the court session. The Ministry of Transport is carrying out plans to facilitate travel and safety during the upcoming Songkran festival, especially ensuring adequate mass transportation. Between the 11th till the 17th of April, 11 million cars are expected to be on the highways, while 32 free trains are being put on the tracks to offer travelers 1.5 trips. The transport company is also adding buses to provide 49,000 trips, and shuttle buses are being provided by the Bangkok Mass Transit Authority. Furthermore, the Expressway Authority of Thailand has announced that tolls on Burpawiti Expressway are waived from midnight on the 10th of April to midnight on the 16th of April. The Department of Highways is also waiving tolls on motorway number 7, that is Bangkok Chonburi, and number 9, Bang Pli, Bang Pa-in, from 4 p.m. on April 10 to midnight of April 16th. I believe that the point is to provide more trips for the travelers, actually offering them more facilities, I should say. All right, we'll now take a short break. Up next, we have a special talk with the World Bank President. Don't go away.
มนุษย์ทำลายสมดุลทางธรรมชาติแล้วมนุษย์ก็เป็นผู้ประสบภัยพิบัติจากธรรมชาติร่วมสร้างอนาคตลดภัยพิบัติระดมพลังพลิกฟื้นคืนผืนป่าในทุกชุมชนทั่วประเทศ
Forward to the establishment of ASEAN Community in 2015. The Public Relations Department has launched a 24-hour English language satellite TV channel, NBT World. Broadcast in C-band format, viewers can stay up to date on what's going on in Thailand and countries in the ASEAN region. NBT World can be watched by GMMZ set-top box on channel 194 and PSI set-top box on channel 198. NBT World, Voice of ASEAN Community.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. Today we have a special interview with reference to the global HIV situation. Mr. Jim Yong Kim, former director of World Health Organization's HIV/AIDS department and World Bank president, who has recently been presented with the Prince Mahidol Award 2013, joins us today to tell us more about the current HIV situation.
When you were the director of the WHO's HIV/AIDS department and the 3x5 initiative was launched, what was the situation of AIDS during that time?
Well, you know, we at Partners in Health, along with my colleague, Dr. Paul Farmer, we began treating people living with HIV in Haiti in a very, very poor setting in 1998. And treatment became available first in 1996. And so soon afterwards, we began treating. But it was at very high cost. We were using recycled medicines. It was very difficult to get anyone committed to treating HIV/AIDS. And so we kept doing it because we felt it was the right thing to do. We felt that antiretroviral therapy could have an enormous impact on the some 25 million people living with HIV in poor countries. And so some of us began talking about the possibility of treating HIV in developing countries. But up until 2003, it's important for us to remember that it was extremely controversial. Heads of agencies, global public health leaders, were almost uniform in saying that it's impossible to treat HIV in poor countries. Now, in January of 2003, President Bush had announced the PEPFAR initiative, President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, which was hugely important and I think will be remembered as one of the great moments in the history of global public health. But in the summer of 2003, when I went to work at the World Health Organization, there was still tremendous controversy about whether treatment was possible. People were still saying, you know, we shouldn't do it, we got to be careful, you know, you're going too fast, the pendulum is shifting away from prevention to treatment. People were juxtaposing the two and saying you have to make a choice and that treatment will stop prevention efforts. There was just a tremendous sense of dis-ease, a tremendous argument. The people who were arguing for HIV treatment, many of them came from the activist community, from ACT UP, people who were really responsible for pushing the process of getting us the treatment in the first place. So when I was at WHO, I said to the Director General, who was my very close friend, Dr. Jong-Wook Lee, you know, he was a vaccine specialist and had participated in the great child survival revolution. And I said, just like in the child survival revolution, if you don't have a clear target with a clear deadline, you can't make anything move. And he bought it. And frankly, he was one of the few global public health leaders who bought it at the time. So we announced the 3x5 target. And I just want to remind people that when we announced it, we heard tremendous anger. Some of the donors were angry. Some of the countries, some of the African country ministers of health were really angry because they thought it was unfair for us to set such an ambitious target. But one of the things that I bring with me to my work today is that when it comes to doing things for poor people, when it comes to doing things for people who have no voice, unless you set bold goals with clear deadlines and then change the way you do your work in order to try to meet those goals, the poor are going to stay poor and are going to stay without access to treatment. And so we applied this very simple principle. You know, in getting this award, I'm so grateful for receiving it. But part of what I think we need to do is remember that in 2003, the 3x5 target was incredibly controversial. And I wish I could tell you that people, you know, quietly and politely expressed their opinion on it. That's not the way it was. People were angry about it. And so I think the lesson for us today is we need to look around at the bold targets that we're setting today. We want to end poverty by 2030. And there are a lot of people say it's not possible, the poor you will always have with you. It is easy to be a naysayer when it comes to doing the right thing by poor people. And I think what 3x5 showed us is that unless you have clear targets with clear deadlines, you don't change the way you do things, and at the end of the day, many more poor people would have died.
So you received a lot of cooperation from various agencies?
Not at first. Not at first. No, we frankly received very little cooperation at first. We didn't receive any funding. We didn't. The only organizations that were really with us on 3x5 were the treatment action campaigns made up mostly of people living with HIV/AIDS. The big breakthrough for us came when the Canadians gave us 100 million Canadian dollars. I mean, it was just hugely important, and I am always and forever grateful to the Canadians. It was something that was very strongly encouraged by my friend Stephen Lewis, one of the great leaders in Canada, and very strongly encouraged by Bono. And so most people were frankly hoping that 3x5 would die. They were hoping that it would just go away. The Canadians really saved us, and we went from there.
From now on, where do you think the global attention or focus should be on for the eradication of HIV/AIDS?
Just so I don't get in trouble, I'm going to add one quick thing. The Swedes also came through. That's very important. The Swedes and the Canadians came through. Once that happened, we had more support. But I just want to make the point that at first, there was no support. So into the future, look, we had always said at Partners in Health that HIV treatment is so important because it happens to be a chronic disease, and you have to treat people for the rest of their lives. So this is the best opportunity we've ever had to build the kind of primary care systems that not only can deliver HIV treatment, but tuberculosis treatment, malaria treatment, even treatment for non-communicable diseases. The commitment to providing those kind of services doesn't exist in very many places still, especially in the developing world. And one of my purposes in coming here is to congratulate the Thai people, because in 2001, against the advice of the World Bank, against the advice of the World Health Organization, the Thai people decided that they were going to provide universal health coverage to everybody. We think that that's the next great opportunity. If you continue to see AIDS in isolation to all the other healthcare problems, I think over time we're going to run out of steam. We've now got to say, look, there are enough resources in the world to provide everyone with very comprehensive, decent primary health care. The figure that the Lancet paper just published was about $70 billion a year. I think there's no question that we can afford it, and HIV/AIDS treatment, if it becomes part of this overall expansion of primary health care, I think it can truly reach everyone, and I think we can have very bold aspirations like ending the epidemic.
And that was a special interview section with Mr. Jim Yong Kim, former director of the World Health Organization's HIV/AIDS department and World Bank president, who recently won the Prince Mahidol Award, sharing with us his views on the global HIV situation. Before we take a break here, let's have a look at the exchange rates and also some of the commodity prices.
Moving forward to the establishment of ASEAN Community in 2015. The Public Relations Department has launched a 24-hour English language satellite TV channel, NBT World. Broadcast in C-band format, viewers can stay up to date on what's going on in Thailand and countries in the ASEAN region. NBT World can be watched by GMMZ set-top box on channel 194 and PSI set-top box on channel 198. NBT World, Voice of ASEAN Community.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsline. Let's have a look at the global news now. Search planes returned to the Pearce Air Base in Perth on Sunday as officials race to locate the Malaysian airliner's black box recorder days before its batteries are set to die. Lieutenant Russell Adams confirmed several objects were spotted during Australian P3 Orion's flight. While some were ruled out, there remain at least 4 objects of interest. 10 ships and 9 aircraft were searching a massive area in the Indian Ocean west of Perth, trying again to find some trace of the aircraft, which went missing more than 3 weeks ago and is presumed to have crashed in one of the most remote areas on the planet. An Australian Navy ship, the Ocean Shield, was fitted with a sophisticated U.S. black box locator and an underwater drone on Sunday, and is expected to leave port and join the search later in the day. Numerous objects have been spotted in the 2 days since Australian authorities moved the search 1,100 kilometers after new analysis of radar and satellite data concluded the Boeing 777 traveled faster and for a shorter distance after vanishing from civilian radar screens on March 8th. None has been confirmed as coming from flight MH370. Malaysia says the plane, which disappeared less than an hour into a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, was likely diverted deliberately. Investigators have determined no apparent motive or other red flags among the 227 passengers or the 12 crew members. North Korea threatened to conduct what it called a new form of nuclear test, raising the level of rhetoric after members of the United Nations Security Council condemned the North's recent ballistic missile launch. North Korea said it was absolutely intolerable that the UN Security Council, turning a blind eye to the U.S. madcap nuclear war exercises, denounced the Korean People's Army, or KPA's self-defensive rocket launching drills and called them a violation of resolutions. The statement said KPA drills to counter the U.S. will involve more diversified nuclear deterrents that will be used for hitting medium and long-range targets with a variety of striking power. After Pyongyang fired 2 medium-range Rodong ballistic missiles into the sea off the east coast of the Korean Peninsula on Wednesday, the 15-member Security Council on Thursday condemned the launches, violating UN resolutions. North Korea's first firing in 4 years of mid-range missiles that can reach Japan followed a series of short-range rocket launches over the past 2 months. In defiance of UN resolutions, North Korea conducted its 3rd nuclear test in February 2013 and declared it had made progress in securing a functioning atomic arsenal. And that's for today's edition of Newsline. If you have any comments or suggestions, please feel free to email them to us, and the email address is newsline.nbt@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Facebook by simply typing NNT, or check out our website, that is thainews.prd.go.th/newseng, where you can stay up to date on news today at the top of every hour. I'm Chalaphansan Rula. See you next time. Sawadee ka.